How are you, Fred?
I'm doing good, Dave. How you doing, buddy?
Okay, I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing pretty good. I'm ready,
We got
man.
Coach Fred White now with the headset.
Yeah, like
Yes.
I was talking to Jacob Warren yesterday on our Vol report brought to you by Vassy Lawn and Garden. I was like, does it feel like football season? Because SEC Media Days is next week. He's like, no. It's not for 3 or 4 weeks or 2 or 3 weeks for those guys till you get into preseason camp. But for me, like I hit another level. Yeah, I don't do cocaine, but if that was what it was like, that I would feel that way when SEC Media Days is here. So that's so I guess if I want SEC Media Days in April, that I'll have to start doing some sort of drugs. But Fred, we had a question before we get to a couple of things, including Ryan Day, who wants to move the hashes. And that was playing a freshman quarterback in Carson Beck at Georgia. The question was phrased, can you keep it close? Yeah, I think Tennessee can keep it close, and they can win that game. But when you face a freshman, Fred, as opposed to a guy that has a lot of experience, and he'll have experience by that point of the season, but how much does it change things as a defensive player and a defensive back?
You experience wise?
Yes, for you when you're facing him, preparing for him.
Yeah, because when you have film on someone, it gives you a better sense of what they're going to be like. When the season first starts, you really don't know what it's going to be like. You just go off of what someone did last year. You don't know if they got better, if they got worse. But during the season, we're playing, you're talking about Georgia, right? We're talking about going all the way down into the schedule, all the way to Georgia, correct? November the 18th. If you're not hitting on all cylinders by then something's wrong anyway. That's towards the end of the season. That's when we always used to say we want to play Florida. We wish we could play Florida at the end of the year because we're a better football team, and I feel like our coaches knew what players could do on our team as well as on theirs. So the game plans were a little bit different. Just they remember what you do in November, and I thought they remember what you do in November simply because we were better coached and we were better skilled, and we also understood what we were looking for and the tendencies of other teams. The quarterbacks, the running backs, receivers, you don't change much towards the end of the year. I mean, in the beginning of the season, you may think you have something going, and somebody may get injured early, and you had to change your game plan. But towards the end of the year, whatever you call is what you're gonna call, and that's it.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, so in this particular case, it might be better to face Georgia early in the season, but you could make the same argument that Joe Milton's new-ish. So that could go either way. Fred, if people want fantastic coverage, how do they get in good hands with Fred White?
Dave, they can give us a phone call at 770-381-0367, or they can also look us up online at fredwhiteallstate.com or just Google us, Fred White Allstate. We are also on every social media platform there is, and it's Fred White Allstate again.
Great stuff. All right. So we got Mr. Jones saying TGIF. Thank God it's Fred Day. I like that.
I like that too.
Yeah,
Thank you for that, sir.
We should have thought of that about 15 years ago. We might still use that. I was like, God, man, that's pretty good. All right. So Ryan Day at Ohio State said recently that he thinks the hashes should be moved in. So let's start like an elementary level because you know way more about football than I do. And I'm somewhere in between those that might not understand. What are the difference between the hashes in college and the NFL to make sure everybody's following along and we're on the same page?
Well, in college, you play, it's a wider field because of that, where the ball is set up and you have more field side, those type of things. When you're on the left hash, you got a whole lot of field on the right. But when it comes to like the hashes being like the NFL hashes, most of the game is played in the middle of the field. And that's the biggest difference. It's just the game is played right in the middle of the field as opposed to having more room to maneuver or throw that deep out route or corner route on the outside of the over there. That's kind of a difference. For instance, playing in the 1998 National Championship game, you look at where they were lined up. When they threw the interception, Dwayne picked up the interception, that was on the wide side of the football field, that wide hash. If it was in the middle of the field, I don't think it's the same type of throw. You know what I mean? That throw gets there a little bit faster because that out route's a little closer. I just think that leave the college game where it is. Leave it alone. When you want to play in the middle of the football field, you make it to the NFL. That's the whole thing for me. Don't try to make the game more like the NFL. Let college be college.
So let me ask you this specifically. How would it, if at all, affect Josh Heupel's offense if they moved the hashes to the NFL and they moved them in?
I mean, like I said, the game is played in the middle of the field at that point. So, I mean, I don't think it would change what he runs or what he does, but I think having the wide hashes has an advantage for offenses in college. Just simply because you can use more of that football side of the field or have more room to run certain plays or do certain things. I don't think that would mess up his calling or game plan or whatever. It just gives you extra space.
Okay,
and when you get the ball to someone out in space, like a Squirrel White or whatever, and you got a wide side of the football field to be able to get him in more space, it just gives you more space to use to maneuver. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, so the columnist I read thought it would really hurt Josh Heupel's offense. I'm not going to name him. I didn't get that at all.
I don't think he knows anything about football. He just knows what he's just talking. I don't think he knows anything about football. I don't know who that guy was, but I said it. Tell him I said it.
We don't have to name him. He's a fairly nice guy. But anyway, take off, Caleb.
So, Fred, if that happened, yes, so if they moved it in, so I think an advantage of Josh Heupel's offense is right now, because they spread so far, defenses have to declare if they're going to play the run or the pass. You're saying even if the hashes were moved in, they'd still, against Josh Heupel's offense, they'd still have to declare that, wouldn't they? They wouldn't be able to disguise the coverage, right?
I mean, you wouldn't be able to. I mean, it's not just Josh's offense.
Yeah.
It's Georgia's offense is the same. It's very similar. Their concepts are just different. It's all about getting guys in space. Oregon did it the same way years ago with the head coach they had. I can't remember his name. But everybody kind of made a version of that because of how fast he went and those type of things. It's still calling the same plays. Nothing's wrong. Nothing's different just because you got more hash or more space. You're still calling the same plays. It's no different. You still got to stop the guy that's in front of you. You got to beat that guy. You got to win your one-on-one battles. Nothing changes out of it as far as calling plays in space.
The one thing that I wanted to ask you that I haven't heard of anybody that might address it, but I remember interviewing Gary Danielson, and he said, this part of football has bastardized the sport, which is a great word. If we all use the word bastardized daily, it might be a more fun world. But he was referring to the fact that offensive linemen basically don't have to declare if they're against the run or the pass, and they're allowed to release further downfield. The NFL, you can only go a yard downfield, and with college football, you can go 3 yards downfield. So you're essentially blocking for a receiver at some point. What are your thoughts on that rule and the way college mandates it? And it's part of the reason the RPO game, right, is so much more effective in college.
It is a lot more effective in college simply because of that. Because as a safety, if I'm reading my uncovered lineman to my receiver, for guys who understand the game, if you actually know how to play the game very well and be good at safety, you should be able to read from the uncovered lineman, which may be the center or the guard. And those guys usually give you the play before the play starts. They're either leaning forward or they're leaning backwards. And if that guy, if the ball is snapped from the center and he's uncovered, the first thing he's going to do is help, because that's his responsibility. He's going to help backing up, but he's going to help going forward. Now, if that guy can go forward 3 yards, it tells me run as a safety. So I'm coming down. But if it's RPO and they see me come down, now I leave a space open in the passing game, which is why it's so hard to cover those RPOs. If that guy's only going down 1 yard, I can now establish whether it's run or pass a lot faster.
Is that
yeah?
I know Caleb's going to jump in though. Is that fair to the defense? Is that a rule you're okay with, or are you kind of like, eh?
I don't like the rule because it makes you have to wait sometimes as a safety and as a linebacker, so you don't get a chance to pull the trigger as fast sometimes because of that. Because as a linebacker, if you're looking at the linebacker stance, he's 5, 6 yards off the ball. When that lineman is coming at him, he's expected to go and attack that lineman, in his gap because it's a run play at that point. Well, if that guy's coming at him and then it's a pass, he leaves a space behind him also. It kind of hurts your defense because there's an opening there now where it shouldn't be. If that makes sense.
No, I got you.
Fred, it's funny because I totally understand. I'm not crazy about the rule either. There's 2 types of blocking rules I'm not a fan of that I don't think should be allowed. One of them is that, but the other one, I want to know your thoughts because you had to face the triple option when you played in college. The cut blocks. Should those ever be allowed in college football? I just feel like it's a cheap way to try to run your offense.
Well, just know if you can cut me, I can cut you.
Yeah.
and I'm being honest when I say that. If you can cut me, that means I can cut you. So if you don't want me to cut you, you shouldn't be cutting me. And that's part of the rule. But if that rule is coming like that and the guy's coming to cut me and he gets a good shot, he better know the next few plays, if I ever get another shot on him, I'm going to. I just want you to know how it feels because it doesn't feel good.
No, and let's be real clear. There's a difference between cut blocking, which is part of the game, and chop blocking when you're engaged with another lineman, which is just nasty, dirty, and illegal. And those guys should be thrown from games, just like defensive backs who hit high or target. Those guys should be thrown from games, in my opinion.
I don't know. That's the case. That's the football, man. I hate that part of the rule.
A chop block when you're engaged with another guy.
You just said a safety that comes, a DB that comes and hits up high. What? I mean, that's what you're supposed to do, hit them up high.
Oh, well, no, we could debate whether or not those rules, but if you're going to enforce those rules in targeting, you should enforce the rules in the trenches where people are taking out people's knees in a chop block.
Yeah, if it's a chop block, that's different. Like say engage, I don't like that. Now that should be banned in all levels of sports, high school, college, and pros. But here's the other thing about a cut block. When you're coming up and a receiver cuts you, hey man, it boils your blood immediately. But I will tell you, you better work on trying to figure out how to get out that cut block. All it takes is 1 or 2 times that you eliminate that guy from cutting you like that, he won't do it again. There's a technique that you use that I used to use, and we were taught this. You take the head and the shoulder and you separate it. So when that guy goes low, you take the head and you take the shoulder and you separate it. I guarantee you he won't cut you too many more times.
Oh, I don't follow. I don't understand what you mean.
So when he takes his head down to block you, you have this and you have this. You take it and you separate it. I guarantee you he will never cut you again.
So you push him on the back of the neck? Is that what you're doing?
You take the side of his head, and you take the shoulder and you separate.
Oh.
And he won't ever cut you again.
Oh, wow. Okay, I got you. By the way, Fred, go, Caleb, go.
Just a quick history story because I've been blasphemous all week and I'm going to be blasphemous again today because I'm ready for the Bammer fans to come at me. College football banned the chop block in 1980. Bear Bryant's last national title was 1979 when he was running the wishbone offense. Bear Bryant would have been nothing without the chop block. Y'all come at me. Come at me. Come at me.
Wow.
I didn't play in the era.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I just felt like I triggered some Alabama fans today.